Are you ever curious about the history of professional wrestling? Want to know more about the territories? You're here at the right place. This is Ring Respect Radio. We are the Video Bros, and it's a Thursday night, so boom, just like that, it's party time. We are the Video Bros. Of course, Bobby Munson here, and right beside me, the man with the angelic voice, he is Papa Smokes. Papa Smokes, happy Thursday. How you doing, my brother?
Woo, happy Thursday to you, Munson, and happy Thursday to all the wrestling people out there, particularly the PPW Nation, but really a shout out to anyone who loves professional wrestling. Thank you for tuning into this podcast.
We always love having him here, especially this guy right here. Basser, our boy, is in the chat here tonight joining us.
How you doing?
Yeah, love to have you here, Bass. Thank you for joining us. Yes, we are, of course, going to be talking about history of professional wrestling, doing another trip through the territories. But, you know, Papa Smokes, it's not always about that here on Ring Respect Radio. We gotta put in some other stuff here. And, we got Brett back in the chat. I didn't expect the OVW ending. I'm going to have to check that out, Brett. I'm going to have to go back and watch after this is all said and done. But thank you for returning to Ring Respect Radio now that the 9:05 time slot is back for us, baby. Let's see. Zach's in the house. Thank you, Zach, for being there as well, too. And something happened to the ref. Looked kind of, shit.
Man.
Okay, ref? I definitely need to find out what happened then. We'll have to definitely go check that out right after we're done here, Papa Smokes. And, of course, we got the Mangler up in the house. It's not a Thursday night without the Mangler here. Hello, my friend. Thank you for being here, as always, and supporting. Papa Smokes, we got a lot of great stuff to talk about with the history of pro wrestling, but let's talk about current pro wrestling. Let's talk about, Prairie Pro Wrestling. How about, yes, the tickets are on sale, and they are going fast, let me tell you. So if you're looking to get a ticket to Prairie Pro Wrestling's show on Saturday, April the 4th, make sure you reach out immediately on social media to be able to be included because, again, Papa Smokes, we sold out the last one. It was packed, shoulder to shoulder, just like you expect from a PPW show. But I'm telling you, people are just as hungry to see more Prairie Pro Wrestling action. And on Saturday, April the 4th, it's going to happen. We might get to see that matchup between Riley Cruz and Michael Allen, Richard Clark for the title. Lots going on in Prairie Pro Wrestling world.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we had our last show in February, and it was cold. It was dreary. It was a frigid night in Western Canada. This next show is in April. It's going to be all different. Our fans don't care about the weather. They're going to show up anyway, but it makes it all the more pleasurable if it's weather cooperates a little bit. Beginning of April is the end of winter months, and that's what we look forward to here. It has been a long, cold, snowy winter up here, as they all are. But everybody's getting a little tired of it by this point. And a Saturday night, April 4th, just at the beginning of spring, is going to be just lovely for our wrestling fans.
Oh, I can't wait, Papa Smokes. And, you know, I love looking out my window right now and seeing that it is not completely dark. It is still light outside. It is about damn time. I hate that part of winter. That, aside from the extreme colds we get, they're brutal. But one thing I really hate is just the dreary feeling of you wake up to go to work and it's dark. You go to come home and it's dark. It feels like sunlight never finds you. And I want that sunlight. I am ready for it, Pop Smokes. I'm ready to get out and start being outdoors a little bit more often as soon as it gets a little better.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the fun things about living in Canada, especially out here in the West where it can be really cold in the winters. This city will come alive in the springtime and the summertime. You see people out everywhere. Everybody wants to get outside. Everybody wants to get out of the house. And you see people you haven't seen all winter. You see friends, you see family, you see fans, and all kinds of people you know. Once the weather is nice, everybody's going to get out. There's going to be music in the streets, dancing in the streets, Munson, and wrestling in the Cosmo Senior Center. We're going to be loving this. Oh, just can't wait, man. And we'll have halftime will be extra fun when we don't have to huddle around in little circles, puffing our cigarettes and such. We can actually relax outside for a little bit, have a hot dog, have a puff, have a smoke, whatever you want, and get ready for some more wrestling action. We don't know exactly what's going to be on this card, but there's been some dramatic occurrences leading up to what will be on this show. So we're going to see where the matches go on this one. It'll always be action packed. That's a guarantee.
Well, guaranteed. You're going to get your money's worth to be there. Brett asking if we're between Alberta and BC. Actually, no, we are between Alberta and Manitoba. BC being on the far west of Canada. Then you would have Alberta, Saskatchewan right there, and then Manitoba on the other side of us. But very close geography there for sure.
Yeah, very close. But don't forget our neighbors in Manitoba there. You know, Munson, you've had a little heat with a fellow commentator in Winnipeg as of late, and there's all kinds of reasons for the heat between Saskatchewan and Manitoba, most of them based around CFL football, the Riders versus the Bombers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that hate does come from there, but you know what? I got to stand up for Saskatchewan. This is where I am, Papa Smokes. It's where I'm at. I'm always going to stick up for Saskatchewan, and if Angus over there in Winnipeg Pro Wrestling wants to keep talking shit, he can go ahead, but I'll just keep throwing the shade right back at him. That's guaranteed. We got Bob Smokes. I wasn't able to tell you because of the time change. Thank you for the research on Southwest Championship Wrestling. Enjoyed the episode. Yes. Yeah. Awesome work on that one.
Thank you, Brett. Much appreciated. And it's my pleasure and Munson's pleasure as well, I'm quite sure, to do these deep dives into the territory era, the various different cities. We learn, and then hopefully you guys learn from that as well. Great fun to do it, and thanks.
Yeah. We got our boy Andre C in the house saying hello to the dope dynamic duo. Ooh, getting tongue twisted there. Hello, Andre. How are you doing, my friend? Thank you for being here tonight. But should we get on with it, Bob Smokes? I know Brett's itching for it. I think a few others might be. They want to get a little history lesson. So dare we take a little stroll down to Nashville and talk about the lay of the land here?
Let's do it, Munson. I'm anxious to get into this. So firstly, a few notes about Nashville, Tennessee. Let's get a feel for this city. It is the 21st most populous city in the U.S., the population of 704,000 people. So less than a million, not a huge city whatsoever. It was named after General Nash from the Revolutionary War in 1779. The Nashville is known as Music City, as it's a major center for the music industry, particularly country music. It is home to the Grand Ole Opry, which is now a building, but the Grand Ole Opry started as a radio show which focused on playing music over the radio, which gradually, as Nashville started to really pick up steam with country music, became a country music radio station. Then they built a building to house the studio, to have enough room for the bands and the artists that would play on the Grand Ole Opry radio show. And that is now one of the more famous music venues in the United States, and particularly in the South. Nashville is known for Southern cuisine, barbecue, hot chicken, and hot fish. You can get a whole fried chicken at Hattie B's. We all know that. We've all heard of that famous restaurant. Has some of the best chicken in the U.S. Nashville, Tennessee, also known as the Athens of the South. Munson, did you know that there are 24 universities in the metropolitan Nashville area? 24 universities.
24, wow. No, I did not.
Vanderbilt being the main one, of course. We know them from a lot of greatness in sports, particularly in basketball. But a very learned area with a lot of study and a lot of arts going on there. In 1897, a full-scale replica of the Athenian Parthenon was built as a nod to Plato's Academy. Isn't that interesting? And isn't that cemented as kind of an area with a lot of universities, a lot of higher learning going on there? Yeah. And then in the world of sports, major pro sports teams in Nashville, Tennessee include the Tennessee Titans of the NFL and the Nashville Predators of the National Hockey League. So isn't that interesting? And they've got some major sports going on there, as well as all the arts and all the academic learning going on in the many universities in the area. So a diverse city. You don't think of that from Tennessee sometimes, the amount of universities and the amount of arts and cultural stuff going on, but Nashville really a center for the arts.
Yeah, it really is. And as you went through all that too, Papa Smokes, a lot more there than I actually knew about Tennessee or Nashville in particular. Like, that's crazy with the amount of universities. And of course, yeah, I mean, when I think of them, I think that obviously the chicken comes to mind, and so do some of their sports as well as music being the very big one in all of that, of course. But yeah, I mean, nothing beats, I mean, I can't compare because I've never been to Nashville, and I'd love to compare what Nashville hot chicken in Nashville is like versus the versions of it I've tried out here in Canada, which I'm sure do not compare. And don't come at me in the comments, because I am admitting I know damn well nothing beats the OG, and I would love to try the OG one day.
Munson, it's just part of our pipe dream. We got to take a wrestling trip somewhere, and wouldn't Nashville or Memphis be an interesting destination for us? And we could hit up some wrestling shows and go to Hattie B's for a half fried chicken, baby. Oh, Papa Smokes would be loving that.
Sounds delightful. Andre said they visit the Pantheon in Nashville in the movie Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. That's a deep cut piece of knowledge from movies there. That's a well done, Andre. There's a reason you win trivia nights a lot. I didn't know the Grand Ole Opry was a radio station first. And can you imagine radio stations back in the day being the thing to go to, right? Like before television and stuff like that. You had certain times of the day when your favorite radio shows were on, and you sat around the living room with the family, just turn on the local radio show that you listen to each and every night or each and every week or whatever. And that's how people kept up with things once upon a time. It's wild to think.
Yeah, I even remember being a kid in Winnipeg that on the local TV channels, of which there was two or three, they would sometimes have shows kind of like that. Sometimes they would be religious or faith-based music, and sometimes kind of country music, but you could watch a band, sometimes one of those bands that's a whole family, right? It would be mom and dad singing, and then the kids also playing guitar and singing, and then they would have a small, very, very small studio audience sort of thing, where like it would basically be 15 or 20 people in some bleachers watching, but that would be a little show that would play, before the news or after the sports event or something like that, and you would get your local music there. It might play on the radio station as well, but you could even watch it on TV.
Yeah, absolutely incredible to think that it was back that way. But now getting into what Nashville brought to the territory system here, Papa Smokes, and the ownership. I mean, this dates back a long time. Like, we're going back quite a bit into the past to get to the times of Nashville's run, because Nashville is a completely, almost like a different story when it comes to what happened to them. They almost said, we were talking about before we went live here, that once you do a bit of a deep dive, they almost become like a bit of a satellite territory that kind of gets into the Memphis stuff. And if you want to go back on in a couple of days, if you're watching on repeat, I will have up in the corner here for the link to the Memphis show that we did already, if you want to find out more about Memphis wrestling from the territory days. But very interesting start to pro wrestling from Nashville with the ownership there, if you want to go into that portion for us, Papa Smokes.
Yeah, it started very early, as did a lot of Southern promotions. I think at the very beginning of the 1900s, there were wrestling and boxing shows being thrown in Nashville by various promoters. You might sense a theme here in some of these territory episodes we've done. A lot of the early decades of some of these wrestling cities were kind of haphazard in the way that various promoters came in through shows in various venues, and there was never really a lot of tenuousness or continuity in these. It would just be promoters kind of throwing shows here and there wherever they could to make a few bucks. But in the case of Nashville, by the 40s, a very, very famous and very influential man in wrestling came into the area and started setting up a network of interconnected promotions which would stretch all throughout the South. The man I'm talking about is Roy Welch. He
Mm.
is one of the great, great grandpappies of American wrestling. If you don't know his name, he's at least as important a promoter as Vince McMahon or Jim Crockett or any of the other ones. He just worked when at a previous age when times were different. Not so much money was being made, not so much opportunity was there. A lot of it was before the TV era, but have no doubt about it, Roy Welch was one of the most influential people in all of pro wrestling history, and Nashville was one of the cities he started out. His story is extremely, extremely interesting, and we will do much deeper dive on Roy Welch and his family when we get to some other Tennessee wrestling territories that he was more um, active in, such as Knoxville. We'll see with continental wrestling later on when we finish up our trip through the territories. We will get to that one. But Roy Welch was a member of a huge family. He had many, many brothers, cousins, nephews, all that sort of thing. And they were a wrestling family. Everybody in the wrestling, everybody in his family contributed to the wrestling business somehow. They have to be one of the biggest wrestling families in the States. They had so many brothers that were wrestlers, promoters, worked in all facets of the business, including Roy Welch, Jimmy Golden, Herb Welch, and then Roy Welch's son, Buddy Fuller. Some of the boys eventually took a different last name. It was Buddy Fuller, and then Buddy Fuller had two sons, Robert Fuller, who some of you will remember from WCW TV as Colonel Parker. He was a manager, an older guy by that time. And then one of my favorites, the Tennessee stud, Ron Fuller, who became the owner and operator of Continental Wrestling out of Knoxville. Again, we're going to talk more about the Welches during that episode. But Roy Welch was an old school original. This guy ran his offices with an iron fist, the way it used to be in the old days, under threat of physical violence a lot of the time. Now, Roy Welch had been a wrestler back in the old shooter days. He was, as they say, a hooker, a wrestler who, if he got his hooks in you, you were finished. You would tap out. And Roy Welch was trained by the original Dutch Mantel. Now, I'm not talking about Dutch Mantel that you guys know from WCW TV and also WWF later on as the manager of Jack Swagger. That he took the name of the original Dutch Mantel. The original Dutch Mantel was a shoot fighter, and he used to work the shows and other types of shoot fighting competitions all throughout the South, all throughout Oklahoma, Texas. He was going down there challenging all the guys working on the oil rigs to matches for money and such like that. Look up a picture of the original Dutch Mantel sometimes. He looks like somebody out of a horror movie. He looks like Jason Voorhees without his mask, or he looks like Freddy Krueger. He's all mutilated. His ears are cauliflowered. He's just, I don't mean it as an insult, but he's not a good-looking man in the least. Yeah, there you go. Looks like Dutch Mantel right there. He was the real deal, and he taught a lot of early wrestlers how to wrestle. Not only the, as we call it now, catch as catch can style, but real shoot fighting. And back in those days, you had to be able to know how to fight for real just to defend yourself in case stuff got crazy. So at any rate, getting back to topic, Roy Welch ran his offices with a no-nonsense approach. This is the kind of guy who would come to a town, see that there was a wrestling show there, walk in the door, walk into the dressing room and say, hey, all you guys are nothing. I'll beat all of you up if you don't get the hell out of here right now. I'm taking over this town. Anybody that's got something to say about it, step up to me and I'm going to put you in your place. And if one or two guys stepped up to him, he would say, you guys just got yourselves jobs. The rest of you can hit the road. I'll use you two in my promotion, and the rest of you, there is no promotion here anymore. I'm running things around here. That's the way it used to be done under threat of violence like that. For better or for worse, for right or for wrong, that's the way it was done. That's the kind of guy Roy Welch was.
Damn, that's impressive. Lots on Roy Welch there too, but he also worked hand in hand with Nick Gulas in this territory, and
Yes.
Nick Gulas running there as well too. Kind of had a very old school approach to his way of booking as well, and running the territory.
Yeah, very much so. Gulas had been running some small level shows in Nashville, and then once he got linked up with Roy Welch, they started really turning up the heat in the office in Nashville. So they created the Nashville office in the late 40s. The NWA National Sanctioning Committee was created in 1948. Gulas and Welch joined it in 1949, so being full members of the National Wrestling Alliance, getting a vote in on who would be the world champion and all that. They named their promotion NWA Mid-America, running Nashville, Dyersburg, and area at the beginning, later incorporating Knoxville, Tennessee by 1953. Then they got another promoter, John Kazana, who joined them at this time. And this trio started to really get the wheels underneath them in Nashville, started running some successful shows. Now, Gulas and Kazana had been running as a venue the Hippodrome in Nashville, which was a large roller skating rink, gymnasium kind of thing, a big wide open building, kind of a barn almost. They were, and it was quite suited to running professional wrestling shows. And it seated 5,000 people. So probably not getting 5,000 in these early days at this time. But once they got the power of Roy Welch and his wrestling family behind them, then they started really getting a lot more fans and a lot more sales to their shows. Now, NWA Mid-America ran harmoniously with the surrounding southern territories who were part of the NWA. So these, including Memphis and Knoxville and some of the other areas, they would have been talent sharing with these promotions as well. But Nashville is kind of noted for not having to rely on bringing in outside talent all that much. They had a whole lot of homegrown talent, and that's what Gulas and Welch and Kazana liked to feature in their shows, was that hometown talent. That way, the fans would get to know their homegrown talent, and you could feature programs and feuds that would last not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but sometimes 10 years, right? Because it would be the same area fans coming to those shows, and they would be seeing that same homegrown talent. So these guys, a lot of the Nashville wrestlers would appear on these shows for years and years and years. This is before the days of companies signing talent to contracts. These guys weren't getting contracts with the company, but as long as they showed up and as long as they had some popularity amongst the local fans, they could continue to get booked over and over again with the Nashville fans, thereby building up a homegrown talent base that the fans in that area could really bond with.
Just going to pause there for 1 second, Bob Smokes, because during that time, Melball Collins joined the chat here. Thank you, Melball, for being here. And if anybody wants to, go check out the latest Noah Unleashed released here this morning on YouTube. So go check that out from Melball. She does amazing work over there. Love watching.
Podcast.
Yeah, it's great. Fantastic.
I watched that one.
A couple of questions here that came in from Brett during that time as well, Papa Smokes. I think this, so this was, he said Ron Fuller from SMW, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but I think he meant Robert with that reply there. Is that the same one?
Yeah, most definitely. And there were Fullers and Welches all around the wrestling business. I don't know if there are any currently. I know that the Tennessee Stud has, Ron Fuller has, I believe, a grandson who is also a big, tall guy like him, 6'9", 10", something. They're very tall guys in that family. So I wonder. I think he might be a wrestler, but I don't know his name.
Okay. And the other question for Brett: any relation to Joe Kazana?
Not too sure about that, but if that's a name in the wrestling business, I would guess that it is some relation.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on from there, let's talk a little bit. I think maybe let's go to the television in NWA Mid-America. I think that's kind of where people want to know is how this territory built into a TV show using WSM TV studios out of Nashville. This is where they broadcast on Channel 5, if I'm not mistaken, Bob spoke with the show that they put together.
Yeah, they had a 2-hour show. It kind of was testament to the love of wrestling in the South there and in Nashville. Their show was first called NWA Big Time Wrestling, and then eventually they changed the name to NWA Mid-America Wrestling. So solid titles. You knew what you were getting with that, and then you knew that that promotion had an affiliation with the National Wrestling Alliance, which just was showed its legitimacy in the wrestling world, that it was tied to the major governing body of pro wrestling in the United States. I know that Nick Gulas used to brag on TV about the viewership that NWA Mid-America Wrestling got, sometimes outdrawing college sports games, basketball games, and football games, which in the South is insane because those get such tremendously high viewership. I know that some of his episodes of the wrestling program got garnered 600,000 viewers sometimes,
Wow.
which for a city with a population of, at that time, of 650,000 people, that's a pretty good percentage of the people in the area watching that TV show. You imagine that, Munson? I mean, that's the surrounding area. Back then, just as far as the TV station's signal, how before the internet, how the TV signal would just be broadcast through the air. I don't know the science behind this, but I mean, it would go as far as some of the outlying small communities around the major center that it emanated from. But imagine that 600,000 viewers for some of those episodes back in the 70s. That's insanity.
Oh, it's absolutely wild. I mean, those are big numbers for a TV show to draw because again, those radio frequencies would only go so far at the time. And that's again, if you can pick up still 600,000 when your main area is based on a population of 650, it's mind-boggling. And Nick Gulas could make those brags, especially as one of the voices of the TV show as well, too. One of the known voices that was there each and every week, calling a lot of the shots. Few various ones that come in throughout the time. Eventually, Lance Russell became the voice of Memphis as well, too. Well known for being there during the NWA Mid-America. The show, again, we had a hard time finding anything online in terms of YouTube for the show. Like we often find a lot of old tape and stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot of old tape that I could find on this one, and I don't think you did either.
No, same. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, I don't think there is a whole ton of tape existing for Nashville. I could be mistaken about that. Perhaps somebody has some hoarded up in their place somewhere, but you got to remember that I'm skipping to the end here, but NWA Mid-America as a TV show and as a promotion from Nashville doesn't make it very far into the 80s like some of the territories did. It didn't get shut down by Vince McMahon's national TV deal and the expansionist tactics that he was using. NWA Mid-America more dissolved for other reasons from within. We're going to talk about some of those reasons in a few minutes here, but a lot of this territory was popular in the 60s and 70s. So this is kind of almost even predating VHS tapes. So back in the day, they might have been taping it on a different medium, possibly the reel-to-reel type videotape. Not like VHS or Betamax tapes, but from an actual projector type thing. So those types of film don't stand the test of time so easily. They deteriorate, they rot, they're very flammable. Lots of stuff can happen badly to these old tapes. So I would suspect that there weren't that many videotapes made of it, videotapes which do stand the test of time. But in those days too, you got to remember, even in the videotape era, blank video cassettes in the 70s and early 80s cost $85, $100 a piece. It was and in the money of those times, that was extremely expensive. So a lot of these territory promotions used the same tape. They would tape their 1 or 2 hour episode, send it to the TV station. The TV station would broadcast it, send them their same tape back, and the guys would just tape over the previous week's recording with the next week's recording, and so on, and try and get their money's worth out of these video cassettes. So we've talked about that in a couple of territories for the past. It sounds crazy now, but it's a crying shame that money, the lack of money, I guess I should say, should have such an effect on the preservation of history in the way that those guys just really had to save a few bucks by rolling those tapes over. But think of what was lost. So much good wrestling TV.
And so many great names as well too, Pop Smokes, like names that maybe not everybody's all familiar with, but some very important ones. You talked about Dutch Mantel. We know Jack Briscoe worked this territory, Bob Armstrong, Fargo Brothers. But then you got Jerry Lawler in there. You got Tojo Yamamoto, who was also a trainer in the area as well too. And then Len Rossi, who grew to success within the territory as one of the well-known heroes of that era.
Sure. Bearcat Brown too. We had another one who appealed to the African American population down there too. And they grew some famous talents, but called in lots from the outside, and they had all kinds of good stuff going on there. Hey, BDJ, good to see you, brother. Thanks for popping in.
Welcome back, BDJ. Happy to see you.
And typical of Southern wrestling as well, tag team wrestling, very popular throughout the South. Not as popular in the Northeast, not as popular in the Northwest on the other coast, but in the South and in Texas and such, tag team wrestling, a big thing. And we know that the science of tag team wrestling was really forged in Southern wrestling. You've probably heard the modern Dutch Mantel and Jim Cornette talk about some of the intricacies and some of the creative openness of tag team wrestling. We had such tag teams as the Fabulous Kangaroos, the Heavenly Bodies, the Infernos were a huge heel team for so long, with various people under the masks at various times. Same thing with the Medics, with their manager, Dr. Ken Ramey. And then, of course, the most popular tag team that really drew a lot of money and made a lot of success for Nashville, the Fabulous Fargos. And they were printing money down there. Jackie and Don Fargo. To look at them, you wouldn't think they were huge, popular wrestlers, but boy, could they work, and boy, did they have charisma. They packed the houses every week. So yeah, that tag team wrestling really came a long way. And yeah, like I was saying, Jim Cornette talks about some of the intricacies of tag team wrestling. I mean, with the way that the four wrestlers can work with the referee on the distractions and the heel work and the cheating and the tags with the count and the amount of time that both wrestlers can be in the ring at the same time, and then heating up tags and getting hot tags and cold tags, all the rest of that. All of this stuff was forged in fire in Southern wrestling, and some of the aforementioned tag teams were the masters of getting that over. And then, of course, the later generations bringing forth the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, the Steiner Brothers, the Road Warriors, some of the masters of tag team wrestling of the next generation.
You bet, yeah. And of course, one of the bigger rivalries in the singles division that really carried the territory. I mentioned the two names, Jerry Lawler, Tojo Yamamoto, really were a lot of the backbone of what helped keep bringing a lot of people into the area. Two incredible, great workers that had a wonderful rivalry together in this territory.
Yeah, very much so. And Tojo being a big, playing the foreign heel, being a very prominent heel amongst a bunch of promotions throughout the South, including Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee as well. And then Nashville, being near Memphis, Tennessee, obviously caught some heat from its sister promotion or its neighbor promotion over there in Memphis, which was hot as hell in the late 70s and throughout the 80s, partially due to the great babyface work of Jerry Lawler. So Lawler driving up the road and doing shots in Nashville, Tennessee, had the same kind of drawing power in Nashville as he had in Memphis. And certainly Gulas and Welch benefited from Lawler's popularity as well.
Yeah, I mean, really, anytime he was in that area, he was going to draw an audience. And I mean, where he decided to go kind of leans into the fall of what happened with NWA Mid-America as well, too. Are we there yet? There's some other stuff you wanted to cover first, Pop Smokes, before we start talking about the fall of the company?
Let's take a little look here. Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about the venues, too. We talked
Oh,
about that
yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Nick Gulas had been running the Hippodrome. Bunsen, do you know the semiotics of this word hippodrome? This is a word from there. Of course, there's a famous venue in Paris, France called the Hippodrome, which had everything from opera to burlesque to drama and all kinds of shows. Okay, that is a Greek word. Hippa meaning horse and drome meaning amphitheater. So this was a callback to the ancient Greek days when they would have a special venue for horse racing and chariot racing, that sort of thing. Isn't that interesting that you would still name a building after that? The Hippodrome in Nashville being mostly a roller skating rink, but for concerts and stuff too. But the Welch and Gulas together decided the Hippodrome was not going to be their venue anymore. They decided to move to what's called, just colloquially, the old Coliseum at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Is just basically what it was called. Don't think it had a formal name. They just called it the old Coliseum at the fairgrounds. And this proved to be a very interesting move for Nashville wrestling because it turned out to be the best possible decision they could have made. The fairgrounds made the perfect venue for wrestling over the years. Now, I shouldn't say perfect because those fairgrounds had some bad luck over the years. There was a couple of big fires, and eventually the old Coliseum burned down, thankfully with no one being hurt inside it, but still wrestling would run at the fairgrounds in Nashville for years after the old Coliseum burned down. Gulas, in fact, chipped in some money on building the new Coliseum in the Nashville Fairgrounds. And to Nashville wrestling fans from the 70s to today will remember that Nashville Fairgrounds is synonymous with pro wrestling in Nashville. It's where it's always been held. It's the old Coliseum, seated 5,000 people. So that was plenty big for the big shows they could have. And always for fans in the area would be, are you going to the fairgrounds this Saturday? Are you going to the fairgrounds? We got to go see wrestling at the fairgrounds. So a uh, very cunning move by those promoters to move it to a venue that could really handle the mass crowds they were getting for Southern wrestling at that time.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. And, speaking of seeing wrestling somewhere special, we got something to talk about on that front here when we wrap up our conversation about the history of Nashville wrestling. So stay tuned for that coming up here before the end of the show. But yes, talking about the downfall now of the NWA Mid-America territory in Nashville, Papa Smokes. As we said, it didn't come about like the same way the, globalization of pro wrestling that was done by the McMahon family in the consumption of the territories and the end of the territories. This one came about more internally from a dispute when Jerry Jarrett split off from Nick Gulas, creating the Memphis promotion and then pushing forward, taking the star Jerry Lawler with him and keeping him away. Really kind of hurt that particular territory and hurt Nick Gulas in that sense, and really saw the end eventually of them being a territory in that time.
Yeah, very much so. I think the first crack in the armor started when Roy Welch, who was older than the rest of those guys, started to get sick, started to get old, wasn't able to work so much. Again, we'll talk about it more when we talk about Continental, but Roy Welch worked all the time. He was one of the guys that he had always drove a Cadillac and he would drive it everywhere. The territory wrestling is all about driving long hours, long trips between shows at small towns and stuff. Roy Welch had an early version of a cell phone basically in his Cadillac. Now, of course, different than cell phones today, there are cell tower networks and all that stuff. I don't know the science of how this worked, but he had a big box in the trunk of his car and an old school phone receiver with a wire to it where he could actually make his phone calls while driving on the road. This, I imagine, was not widespread at the time because it was probably very, very expensive and hard to come by. But Roy Welch, realizing that a lot of the work in promoting wrestling is just being on the phone, talking to talent, talking to other promoters, talking to TV stations, talking to venue managers, and all the rest of it. So he did it so much of the work for this promotion. But once he got old and once he got sick, wasn't able to work so much, Nick Gulas hired an assistant, which was basically a secretary position at the beginning. He employed a lady named Christine Jarrett, and later to be known by wrestling fans as Miss Teeny, Miss Christine. And she was the mother of Jerry Jarrett, the grandmother of Jeff Jarrett, Double J, as all of us modern day fans know him. But Christine Jarrett turned out to be a very, very important part of the Nashville office, going above and beyond the duties of a secretary, at first doing some of the clerical work, making the calls to radio stations and venues and setting up shows and stuff, doing that sort of clerical secretarial work, but eventually learning the arts and the science of being a wrestling promoter to the point where Roy Welch wasn't able to do some of the work. Christine Jarrett was now doing this, booking venues, getting TV time for the wrestlers, uh, just really facilitating a lot of the details in setting up spot shows in various smaller towns. She started out promoting the small town spot shows and then really just getting such an important part in the Nashville office that she was now running merch and a bunch of other functions in that promotion. Now, she had her son, Jerry Jarrett. We all know this name as well, one of the most famous promoters in American wrestling history. Her son, Jerry Jarrett, learns the business through his mother, Christine Jarrett, and probably from Roy Welch and Nick Gulas and various other promoters that he would have been around as a kid and as a teenager. Anyway, Jerry Jarrett grows up to have an important role in NWA Mid-America. He starts helping out with the booking of shows, and then eventually Nick Gulas gets him doing the booking for the entire promotion. This is where Jerry Jarrett learns his chops, and eventually he buys 10% of the office or 10 points in the Nashville office. But this is a key point in the whole thing. Nick Gulas screws him out of that 10%. He doesn't give him 10% worth of the assets of the Nashville office. Once Jerry Jarrett finds this out, he's disenchanted with the promotion, of course, right? He's being ripped off for the amount of money he paid for the points in the office. He did not get what he was promised. So now he's just going to leave. He's going to go to Memphis, where he can see business is heating up tremendously. He can see that they've got a top babyface that he can book and that he can work with the fans. So Jerry Jarrett leaves the company and brings Jerry Lawler with him. Jerry Lawler now not going to appear in Nashville. This had an extremely negative effect on the Nashville office. And yes, something that they wouldn't recover from.
Yeah, that's the what closed the chapter on Nashville as a territory. A lot of different story, not a lot of information out there, but it was great to kind of piece it together and be able to present this to everybody as well too, because again, it's all about the restoration of the knowledge of what built up what we know as pro wrestling even today. And it's great. I'm glad that we have such a great audience here, always Papa Spokes, willing to learn and find out more about the history of pro wrestling. Again, I learned from you tonight as well too throughout this whole thing. It's always a great experience. And Nashville, while not one of the bigger names in this list of territories that we've covered, still a very interesting one.
Yeah. And can I bring up one more thing that
for sure,
contributed to the downfall of NWA Mid-America? They were done by 1980, so that's kind of untypical of the rest of the territory system. As we mentioned before, most of the old territories went out of business because of Vince McMahon's national expansion from New York and the takeover of cable TV. But NWA Mid-America from Nashville didn't even make it that far because of the internal pressures. And one of them, Munson, I thought you might have wanted to bring this up too, was the George Gulas effect. George Gulas, being the son of Nick Gulas, was an aspiring pro wrestler. He's a big, tall guy. He must have been 6'7", 6'8". But being the promoter's son, he got a coveted spot in their company, a spot that did not belie his skills in the ring or his skills on the microphone. So he was what the kids now call a Nepo baby. He benefited from the nepotism of his father owning the business, owning the company, and his father would constantly book him in main event spots and high spots on the card, which a lot of other wrestlers resented, right? The guys who had been in the trenches, humped the road for years, done all their shots and done all their spots in other states and countries and territories. And here's the boss's son who never leaves Nashville, never has hardly any matches, does not have the skill to wrestle at the top of the card, but is constantly being booked up there because his dad is the promoter and has direct influence over the booker. And there's one little funny story that I wanted to tell too for everybody's amusement that gets told a lot. I'm sure anyone that's heard of George Gulas knows this story, but being members of the NWA, Gulas and Welch and the Nashville territory would get their turn at hosting the NWA World Heavyweight Champion when he went on tour to come around to fight all the top stars of the various territories that were members of the NWA. So when Nashville got its turn, they bring the great Harley Race, one of the gods of wrestling. They bring him, the World Heavyweight Champion, to Nashville as a heel, and he's going to fight Nashville's top star and top babyface. Who does Nick Gulas put in this match? Not Jerry Lawler, not any of his other great talents, but he puts his son, George Gulas, in this match, who clearly can't hang with Harley Race, doesn't deserve this spot, doesn't deserve to be in this match. Now Harley Race gets wind of this situation in the back with the boys, gets wind of that they're all dissatisfied with this situation. Nobody seems to like the fact that George Gulas is getting this preferential treatment. So Harley Race comes out in this match and he's not feeling it. So he decides not to sell for any of George's offense. George Gulas, the promoter's son, starts getting frustrated with this and infamously yells throughout the match at Harley Race, "Daddy says sell," much to everyone's amusement, just giving him the order right from from Gulas's mouth,
Yeah.
saying, "Daddy says sell. You have to do it. You have to do it because that's my daddy." And that just, of course, a comment like that caused so much derision among the other wrestlers. Jerry Jarrett being the booker, just pinching his nose at the stink of that one. It caused a sickness and a rot within the promotion that they would never really recover from. That and the fact that Jerry Jarrett felt double crossed by not getting his 10% of the promotion. This was stuff that was seeping into this promotion and would ultimately be huge reasons why it would close its doors for good by 1980.
Yeah. And like Brett said, Harley would eat him alive.
Oh,
And yeah, thanks to this, I also got a new playlist for vintage radio to listen to. Fantastic. I love that, Brett.
All right, Brett.
Right. Cool. All right. Now, yeah, we are getting close to the top of the hour, and Bass coming in here saying a little off topic, but how long does Mark have to defend his title before the powers that be strip him on the championship? All right, cool question here. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there, Bass. I mean, we've got a champion who's clearly getting some strong bookings all across I want to say the country, but all across North America in general at this point, that it's kind of hard to say. We don't want to have to see the title stripped. That's the problem. We want to see it defended. We want that moment that somebody finally beats the champion. But I mean, we're playing on borrowed time with the champ sometimes because a lot of big companies are after him. So we'll see. We'll see what's coming up. I cannot confirm if he's there for April 4th. That's for sure. But I can confirm that what I was talking about earlier, Paul Smokes, is that PPW is in conjunction with Saskatchewan Rush for the lacrosse game on Saturday, April the 18th. If you come to watch the Rush, you're also going to get 3 Prairie Pro Wrestling matchups at the big stadium, SaskTel Center here in Saskatoon. Hello, Astra, joining us here on Ring Respect Radio. Thank you for being here. And BDJ saying, can we spend a few seconds to talk about the most viral tag team in Canadian? Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, BDJ's just going to throw a hardball like this. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Finally.
Oh, man. You want to go Papa Smokes? I don't even know if I could say a nice thing. I've seen these guys wrestle. I've seen them live. The one guy, he scares me. He shouldn't. That not scares me because he's a
one guy
clown. Oh, well, I mean, Jesus Christ. The one guy, just like I thought he was going to get himself killed trying to take a bump. And I think he maybe only took one, and it was terrible looking. It was so bad.
Okay, but to refer to the BDJ's comment there, say it, Bunsen. He's not going to say it. No, but I mean, I agree with the BDJ's comment there. I think the Carnival of Chaos have shown some real interesting promos over the past while, and they have garnered a lot of internet attention. Possibly not for the reasons they intend, but it's interesting, it's funny, and it's garnered interest. And I know that the BDJ has a lot of interest in the Carnival of Chaos, and I got to say, they've piqued my interest a little bit too, particularly Bonkers the Clown and his hammer Morty, which has claimed a number of victims across Western Canada at this time. So, Munson, you got to give us your opinion.
No, fuck that. No, I'm moving on from this. I'm not even like, no, this is Ring Respect Radio. You're not gonna fucking dope me into this situation. Let's go to Brett's question here. How many more territories are there to be covered? We're getting to the end. We are getting closer. There will be
4 or
some
5 more, something like that.
But don't worry, Brett, because just because we get to the end of the territory system doesn't mean it's the end of that approach either. We have got a few different directions that we're going to go with it. There will be some more retrospects about different pro wrestlers from those territories where we do a deep dive on them. And we got something else cooking up in the meantime and in between time as well too. So stay tuned for that coming very soon. But as we reach the top of the hour, Papa Smokes, I'm going to put that most expensive ticker in podcasting up on the screen so you can tell the people where to find you.
All right, everybody. I can be found each week, every Thursday on Ring Respect Radio, the very podcast you're watching right now, on OLE Podcasts and on Video Bros Network. Otherwise than that, I can be found on Elon Musk's free speech wonderland known as X. I am at smokes_papa and also allegedly on Twitch at papa_smokes_.
As Astrid
night,
takes
Astrid.
off, good night. Have a great night.
Yeah,
For myself, Bobby Munson, of course, down on the X, Real Bobby Munson, Instagram and Threads, Video Bros SK, Twitch, it's Video Bro _Bobby Munson, Blue Sky, Bobby Munson up, BSKY.social. You can find me this Sunday hanging out with Mr. Andre C. Free speech one. It is a good one. It is an interesting one. This was awesome. Thank you, Mangler, as always, for hanging out here. We appreciate everybody who's here with us each and every Thursday. Always appreciate all of you. But yes, I can be joined by 2/3 Andre C this Sunday as we talk more from the week of sports. You never know what direction we're going to go, but we've always got a lot of great stuff coming at you. So join us at 11 a.m. Eastern time for that one. You can also catch myself and Papa Smokes this Saturday, as always, Prairie Pro Wrestling, Papa Smokes. It's the cage match. First time ever, the most violent, the most bloody, the most chaotic match in Prairie Pro Wrestling history drops this Saturday, 1 p.m. Saskatchewan time, 3 p.m. on the East Coast. Make sure that you're watching it. Tune into the whole thing and comment on that damn show. We appreciate you. And as always, everything that you find us talking about here on the show can be joined by a lot of other great shows talking about great stuff as well too. Join us at OLE Podcasts across all social media as well as YouTube and Twitch, where we are partnered on both Twitch and YouTube now. You can give us super chats, you can give super stickers, all these wonderful new features here on YouTube. But one other thing you can do, if you're watching on your mobile device on replay about 24 hours later or a couple days later, you get up to 3 hype points per week that you can give out to small creators just like us. If you love the show here tonight, make sure that you're giving us those hype points. Papa Smokes and I hit number 56 on the Canadian charts with our last trip through the territories. Maybe we could go even higher this time with all of your help. We appreciate every single one of you. As always, thank you for tuning in, and we will be back next Thursday night for more indie wrestling reviews. So take care, and we'll see you in a week's time.